Hello chess friends and welcome to the Out of Chess channel and welcome to the round 6 of the FIDE candidates in 2022. We're following now the leader of the super event. We're following now Jan Nepomniachtchi in his game against top grandmaster from Poland, Jan Krzysztof Duda. So what to say about the Nepomniachtchi's performance so far? I think that many times when you play yourself some tournaments, you have maybe lost some games that you should not have lost, but you have also won some games, or you have gained a draw where you maybe should have lost the game. So yesterday I think that Jan Nepomniachtchi got a little bit away with murder sort of in his game against Hikaru Nakamura. Eventually he got his draw, but I still think that Jan Nepomniachtchi, when we watch now the tournament so far, showed most of the brilliant chess. He played, I think, so far the best chess in the super event, and I think he deserves the leader of this prestigious candidate in 2022. So let's see now what happened in this epic game. It was again a beautiful tactical game by both of them. Let's check out now Jan Krzysztof Duda here with the black pieces against Jan Nepomniachtchi here with the white pieces. So knight to f3 was played by Nepo. We have d5 by Jan Krzysztof Duda, and we have now g3. We have the King's Indian attack, and I really love this opening choice, although many times the game can also transpose into some Catalan ideas with the move c4, but Nepo is really a sharp player, and he used to play also many times the King's Indian from black's perspective, and we know that the King's Indian attack is almost like the King's Indian defense, but +1 tempo because you're playing the same setup, but of course with the white pieces. So we have bishop to g4, which is now the so-called carrots variation, where we want to of course get out with our bishop, and then from black's perspective you're trying to build sort of a fortress with e6, c6, and then maybe if you get challenged you can even try some ideas of bishop to f3, simply getting rid of the bishop against the knight. So we have here bishop to g2. Now comes this idea e6. We have kingside castling here by Nepo, so fast developing, also securing the king immediately. And now knight from b to d7. We have h3 kicking with the bishop, and many times there is even this line bishop to f3. After bishop to f3, then as we said, simply build a fortress with c6, knight to f6, bishop to d6, maybe queen to e7, queen to c7. Black is, I think, equal here, nothing special in white's position, although white is still the bishop pair on the board, but I think this is nothing special. This is not a position that you should be scared of here from black's perspective. But okay, here after move h3, Jan Krzysztof Duda played bishop to h5, retreated with the bishop, didn't trade the bishop for a knight, and it's almost like he's saying, I will try to stay with the bishop on the board, but many times this bishop still can be kicked away with here g4, then followed with f4, f5. So many times this bishop on h5 can be also a tactical problem, and it will become a tactical problem in the continuation of the game here for Jan Krzysztof Duda. So in the continuation we have d4 by Nepo, we have knight to f6, c4, we have the c6. So you see again, black builds this beautiful fortress here on light squares. Nothing wrong of course with this position. If the bishop would be here on c8, then it would be a bad bishop, then you don't want to build such a fortress because you have simply the worst piece. But now the bishop is out, so you can really build this kind of a pawn structure. So in the continuation we have c takes d5, we have e takes d5, and now comes what is in my opinion really the critical moment already in the game. We're now in move 9, and I think that here Jan Krzysztof Duda didn't react correctly. Although if you play this continuation that Duda will play now, maybe the engine will not show you an immediate inaccuracy, mistake, or blunder, but I still don't like this continuation. I'll explain you also why. Because look at this, after move knight to e5, d takes e5, that was Jan Krzysztof Duda's choice. We have now here really a very important strategic element. We have now the potential pawn majority attack. Look at this one. We have now 5 pawns against 3 pawns here on the king side, and white's king is already secured by castling. Black's king needs to at least play one tempo, two tempo. You still get another tempo with the knight, so you need at least 4 or 5 tempi in order just to secure your king somewhere. I'm not seeing good ways how black should develop here. So as I said, in my opinion, it was a slightly inaccurate continuation. Maybe here a better idea is simply to proceed with knight to e4. You're doing the same. Your opponent has played an outpost on e5. Now we're doing the same. We can also play knight to e4. In the continuation, maybe you can get challenged, knight to d2. Still we can take bishop to d2. We can play bishop to d6. And look at this now. As we said, the bishop is many times really the tactical problem, I think, of black. Look at this, bishop to g6 can be played, but now after f4 we can block the position f5, although maybe this is not an optimal position for both sides because both players have weaknesses here on e4. Well, black has also weakness on e5, but I think this is a position that black can hold. If you take something like knight takes g6, look at this, h takes g6, now actually black takes over here on the h file. We have a perfect bishop. Look at white's bishop here is blocked out by its own pawn structure. This bishop is bad, so here black is even better in this continuation. So let's go back. So after move knight to e5 here, young Krzysztof Duda took knight takes e5, d takes e5, but now after knight to e4, knight to d2, the knight gets challenged again. The problem is now bishop to g6. If you want to support maybe your knight further on e4, this is not good because you get simply this one, knight takes e4, bishop to e4, bishop to e4, d takes e4, and now with queen to c2, look at this pawn gets endangered. Rook to d1 is going to happen in the continuation. Bishop to f4, we can fix it, and still black has problems to develop the minor pieces, so white will be much faster in the attack. So after move knight to d2, we have knight takes d2, bishop to d2, we have bishop to c5 here by young Krzysztof Duda, and now rook to c1 attacking immediately here the bishop on c5. We have queen to e7 protecting now the bishop, but also attacking the pawn on e5, and now king to h2. And this was already a weird position, I think, here for Duda, because look at this, with the move king to h2, finally we're getting out of the potential range of the bishop, and now f4 is going to happen, g4 is going to happen, f5, g5. So now this pawn storm on the king side really makes sense. The problem is now you cannot get out of the attack. If you castle queen side here, the game was over. Really beautiful trap it would be, because after queen to c2 you have to retreat, of course, with your bishop. If you retreat to b6, then you get this one, queen to f5 with the check, and you lose the bishop on h5. That was the huge tactical threat here by Nepo. Beautiful preparation. So after move king to h2, that's why Duda castle king side. So okay, you castle king side, but you're castling into your opponent's attack. Now this pawn majority, this 5, look at this 5 versus 3 situation makes really sense. Of course, Nepo plays immediately g4, bishop to g6, and now f4. And here, although the computer evaluation is about equal, I'm not saying this is a completely winning game for white, but I think that it's much easier to play this position from white's perspective. So here I think Nepo is taking over. So we have now h6, creating some breathing spaces for the bishop. Here a potential f5 doesn't make sense. Okay, queen to e5 is not working, bishop to f4 is going to happen, and then we can take out the bishop. But the problem after f5, bishop to h7, is that even if you try something like bishop to f4, look at this, bishop to b6 is going to happen, and I think black is regrouped. G5 is not working, so we can always play something like f6 to clarify the position here, and now also play something like, I don't know, rook to d8. We can also push finally here from black's perspective, d4, c5, and suddenly we have also very powerful connected pawns here on the queen side, so maybe this will be also playable then for black. So that's why here Nepo found a beautiful plan. After move f4, he played queen to after move h6, he played queen to e1, including now the queen into the game. He's trying queen to g3, and then with the move f5, of course, this pawn on e5 would be further protected. So we have rook to e8, queen to g3, bishop to h7, and now h4, simply continuing the pressure here on the king side, and now rook from a to d8. So far, again, nothing special here. Obviously, white is slightly better because of the advantage of space, but now comes really the critical moment of the game. So here Nepo pull off the correct move, g5. He's trying to continue his pressure, and here young Krzysztof Duda didn't react correctly. He took now h takes g5, and this move is simply not working, because after h takes g5, the h file will be open. So look at this. For instance, even if you try here bishop to f5, this wasn't played by Duda. Still we have this one, queen to h4. For instance, you try bishop to b4, you see now the problems on the h file. Here we can play bishop to c3, but look at this now, rook to c3, and in the near future we can play king to g3 and then follow with rook to h1. That's the beautiful plan here by Nepo. So it's, I think, even a really bad position, because you don't have counterplay. I'm not seeing good ways how black should defend this position. So that's why here after move g5, what you should do is to play the move king to h8. So you should not take here the pawn. If, for instance, white takes now g takes h6, it's not a problem. Actually, black is getting better here, because look at this. After g takes h6, you have to even sacrifice the rook for the exchange in order to make something with your pawn storm here, because of course you cannot play this move immediately. Your pawn on e5 is a little bit weak, so that's why the suggested move by the engine is here really this move, rook takes c5. And the problem is now by black is going to play rook to g8 and simply is taking over in the whole position. So that's why it was the only way here after move g5 with the move king to h8 here for young Krzysztof Duda to defend his position. But unfortunately for Duda, he played h takes g5, and as we said, after h takes g5, bishop to f5 is maybe even the best move, but Duda played even a worse move. He played bishop to b4, and now we saw the plan. Actually, what we want to get is some kind of an here h file attack, but also a huge problem is now a potential, I don't know, f5 move, and then also g6. This is also something that you should not forget. This move order is also working. Then you could also trap the bishop. So as I said in the beginning, it was, I think, a risky choice for Duda not to trade the bishop for the knight, and then eventually he played this weird move order where he allowed this pawn majority attack here for Nepo. So we have bishop to b4, queen takes b4. Now the queen gets deflected from the e5 square, so that's why f5 is now possible. And here I think it's a position that black can even resign. I'm not seeing good ways how to defend this position anymore. This is game over. Although the evaluation is only, I'm saying only +2, but look at this, black doesn't have any counterplay, so it's game over here for Duda. So we have queen to b2, it doesn't matter. Here we have e6, although there is even a more beautiful move here for Nepo, which he missed, but it's not a problem. He saw the second best line, but this line that I'll show you now, it's really a beautiful pervert stockfish 15 line, because here you can also play rook to c3. Actually, this is working. Look at this, even after d4, you can even sacrifice the rook. You just push the pawn further, and okay, you can even take queen takes c3. Look at this now, e takes f7, king to f7, now queen to c7. If you cover yourself with the rook, then we still can take out the rook, and if you retreat somewhere with the king here, then of course we hear f6 is working, and the game is over. There's not a good way anymore to protect your checkmate here on g7. You could just prolong the game, maybe delivering some checks, but the game is over. So really brilliant tactical shot it would be. Also in this position, let's go back after move d4, we can proceed, of course, e6. Even if you take out with the pawn, the position doesn't change. Again, this idea, e takes f7, king to f7, queen to c7, you can cover yourself, rook to d8. Maybe you can take out also the pawn here on e2, but look at this, g6, we can simply take out here the bishop, we can play queen to d3, and now we can cover with queen to h3. The bishop on g2 is protected, so it's a completely winning endgame here for white. So really beautiful tactic it would be, but e6 immediately is also working. So still Nepo is much better in this position. After move e6, we have f takes e6, but now the pawn gets deflected from the square g6, so that's why here g6 immediately by Nepo. We have e takes f5, we have g takes h7 and king to h8. Although you can also take, but it doesn't matter here. White should be winning, has of course an extra piece here. We have rook to b1 attacking the queen to f6, and now Nepo is taking over here. We have a beautiful attack on the 7th rank, and the position is collapsed here for young Krzysztof Duda. So in the continuation, we have rook to e2, rook to f5. This was a beautiful tactical shot, so everything was pretty well calculated here by Nepo. If you take, of course, queen to f5, you get checkmated on g8, so that's why here after rook to f5, we have here a check. King to g1, we have rook to a2, and now rook to f7, simply connecting the pieces. This is very important. You see how Nepo is keeping the pieces glued together. They're really compact, and now he's continuing his pressure simply around the square g7. So rook to a1, nothing special. Bishop to f1, we have d4 here. Duda is trying to advance the pawn, but now with rook to g5, Nepo continues with his plan. He's attacking further the g7 weakness. So queen to d6, queen to f2, we have a queen to a3, and here after rook to g3. In this position, young Krzysztof Duda resigned. Whatever you do will simply take out here the pawn, and as I said, this is simply game over. So great game, I think, by Nepo. This is really a brilliant Nepo. This is not the Nepo against Magnus Carlsen in the World Championship match. This is a new Nepo that plays really sharp attacking chess. All we have to say, I have a feeling sort of that young Krzysztof Duda beat himself a little bit here himself, but I don't want to undermine, of course, here the brilliancy of Nepo. It was a beautiful game and stunning tactics he pulled off. But as I said, this pawn majority attack here, I think young Krzysztof Duda allowed him. Then it was much easier for Nepo to play, but still it was one of the best games so far from this super event. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. This game means that, of course, young Nepomniachtchi is staying in the lead of the FIDE Candidates in 2022. This will be a beautiful thing. Maybe if he wins this, I'm sure that Magnus Carlsen would agree, of course, to play another game against Nepo in a new World Championship match. I'm not sure that Magnus Carlsen would say, I just want to play against Alireza Firouzja. I don't think that's true. I think he would still have to prove something in the game against this kind of a Nepo. So be prepared. This will be a wild candidate, and of course then even a wilder World Championship match in the next year. So great game. If you want to see more games from the super event, check out my coverage so far with some other great games that we have seen before. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.